Buddy, thanks for coming today. My name is Daniel Laird. I am a media and design specialist with Campus Technology Services. Introduce yourself, Jean.
And I'm Jean Halligan. I teach in curriculum and instruction, mostly math education courses, and I am finishing up my one-year accessibility fellowship with this presentation.
Yay.
Yay, I know.
And Jean and I are involved with the accessibility work group on campus, and today we're going to be talking about using automated accessibility checkers. So the objectives of our session today, we're going to explore the benefits and limitations of the automated checkers in these pieces of software. We're going to introduce the checkers available in the campus license software that we offer. And we're also going to explore ways to incorporate the tools into your existing workflow. So the products that we're going to look at today, Microsoft Office, the Google Suite that we have on campus with Google Apps. There's an add-on called Grackle that does the accessibility checking. We'll talk about that. Adobe Acrobat also has an accessibility checker, and Blackboard Ally does accessibility checks on content in Blackboard as well. So some of the benefits of these, they're built into the software that you already use, so it's not something that you have to install. The add-on for Google is pretty simple. It's not really a huge piece of software that you need to install. So, but other than that, everything else is included in the software. It helps you improve the accessibility of the materials that you create. It flags machine detectable errors quickly, provides some guidance on how to fix those issues, and allows you to fix some issues directly in the checker. Another good thing about this, if you're someone that's new to accessibility, like if you're just, this is your first step on your journey into making accessible content, a lot of these accessibility checkers will also have a decent explanation of why you should make these changes. The Microsoft one in particular goes into good detail about the benefits of making the changes that it asked you to make. So that's also an additional benefit. There are some limitations with these. These are not able to test all the accessibility standards. So these checks don't do everything that needs to be done to make a piece of content accessible. It can't check contrast for the colors that you have in your documents. It can't tell you the readability. Sometimes there are things that tell you like what grade level, but by default, the checkers don't. So usually I think to have accessible content, it's at a 5th or 6th grade reading level, I believe, but these don't check for that. And although it can tell you that a piece of an image needs alt text, it can't tell you if the alt text that's in there is appropriate for it. So it can just flag and say, hey, this image doesn't have alt text, but it doesn't really give you a good idea of what it should be. That's something that you kind of have to learn on your own. The automated fixes that are built into the tools improve the accessibility, but they aren't always the best solution. It's kind of a guideline, and it will make the document more accessible, but will it make it as accessible as it can be? Not all the time, but it's better than nothing. It's a first step. Information on how to fix the accessibility issues flagged are sometimes incomplete. So as I was telling you, it does sometimes go into the reasons why this needs to be accessible or how to do it, but things like I've found with the Adobe checker, some of the explanations are a little lacking. So your mileage may vary, but that's usually on the whole. So Microsoft Office, Jean, you want to do this one?
Sure, but you have to advance the slide.
That's fine.
So in Microsoft Office, you go up to the Layout tab and or under the Review tab, excuse me, just that slide said Layout. Under the Review tab, check Accessibility, and then it gives you a list of errors and warnings that come up on the right-hand side of the document. The Office Checker uses cases. So you keep it open to check your document as you work, and it refreshes and removes errors as they're corrected. So it's kind of nice because you get instant feedback that something's going in the right direction. Check your document before sharing it with others. And you have to export accessible PDFs. So when you have a PDF file, you can export it to Word and use the Office Checker for Word. But then when if you look back at it in Acrobat, you can check it again. And when Dan was going over the slide of limitations, you get all excited like, oh, the software will help you get through this. And then you hear the limitations. It doesn't catch everything. But what I used was, I would use one software, use what Microsoft Office would say. And then if it needed to be in PDF, I would check the PDF. And then when you put it in Blackboard, it's kind of like sifting sand at the beach. Each software checker helps you get it a little bit more accessible. So it's a process. We have a little video here.
This is from Kate. She talks a little bit about the checker. So let me start this.
I don't think the sound is coming through, Dan.
The checker. In the top
Good, thank you.
navigation, come to the Review tab and then choose Check Accessibility. Or you can come to the File tab, select Check for Issues, and then choose Check Accessibility. Both of these options will open up the error and warnings list on the right-hand side. If you expand each heading, you can see the individual element that is affected. When you select an error, it jumps to that element in the document. When you select the drop-down arrow on the right, depending on what the error is, it either gives you a way to fix it or offers some tips. If you want to convert this to a PDF, most people just want to use the Save As feature and change the file extension to PDF. However, in order to preserve more of the accessibility measures that we just corrected, we want to export this to a PDF. You may see an Acrobat tab in the top main menu, and then choose the Create PDF option. Or go to the File tab, down here towards the bottom, choose Export, and then select Create Adobe PDF. Either of those will help reduce PDF correction and remediation.
Okay.
There are two.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about Grackle, which is the add-on for the Google Suite. So in order to use this, once you're in, it works with Google Docs, it works with Google Sheets, and it works with Google Slides. And once you open your file in any of those programs, there's an add-on menu. If you go over to it, you can click, if you don't already have it installed, you can click on Get Add-ons and then do a search for Grackle. We have a campus license, so once you find it, you will be able to install the licensed version of it. So just one thing to note, once you do get the add-on and you click on Grackle Slides, it's going to ask you for permission to use it each time. So Grackle needs your permission to access your files and to do the accessibility checks. So each time you start that add-on, it will ask you for permissions to access your files. So just be aware of that. So some of the use cases, you can use the add-on to check your documents as you work. It works very similar to the one that Microsoft has. And it has a recheck button after you've made your changes. You can check the work before sharing those with others, and then it will export those to an accessible PDF format. And again, with this, after you do export it to a PDF, always make sure to check it again in Adobe. But as a form of practice, usually with Google Docs and Microsoft Docs, if you make it accessible as you can before exporting it to a PDF, that's always the best way to do it. You don't want to rely on Adobe's because it's not as, the user interface is not as friendly as these are. So always make sure you try to do these two before you get into Acrobat. And here's a video of Kate talking about Grackle.
To get to Grackle, go to the Add-ons tab in the main menu, choose Grackle Docs, and then select Launch. This will bring up the checks, warnings, and error list on the right-hand side. If you expand each heading, you can see the individual elements that are affected. Click on Locate to jump to that element.
Okay.
Grackle is a Google.
Okay, and now I'm going to talk about the Adobe Acrobat Action Wizard. So this is how you get to the accessibility checker in Adobe. It's kind of a weird process. There's not a button that allows you to directly do this, so you got to go through a couple steps, which is also another good reason why you should try to get your stuff accessible before putting it into the PDF, because this is less than, it's not as easy to use. So under the Tools tab in Adobe Acrobat, there's this Action Wizard button, and there's a video that we have with Kate showing how that works. But once you go to the Action Wizard, there's a Make Accessible kind of a tool within the Action Wizard, which will go through several steps and do an accessibility check on your document. So as I said, always have it check and correct the source document before exporting it to a PDF, and always double check the PDF after exporting it from another source. So make sure that you do it in Word or Google, and then double check it with the Adobe PDF accessibility checker. Okay, here's the video on that.
To use the Action Wizard accessibility tool in Adobe Acrobat, first open Adobe Acrobat and select the Tools tab. Scroll down the page to the bottom, find the Customize section, and locate the Action Wizard icon. Select Add, and now the Action Wizard will be added to the right-hand side menu. If we go ahead and open a PDF, then come over to the right-hand side menu, select Action Wizard, choose Make Accessible, hit Start, and then follow the prompts through. If there's not already a title in the title box, uncheck Leave As Is and add an appropriate title. Keep in mind that assistive technology uses the title to identify the document to the user, so you want to have it something that's understandable, not just a file name. So once you have a title, click OK. Select the document language. If your document is intended to be a fillable form, you can select Yes. Ours is not, so we're just going to skip this step. Set the reading language. This message is telling us that Acrobat will detect any figures or images within the document and will let us know if there's any missing alt text. So we click OK. We have no figures, so we'll click OK again. All the checkboxes should be set by default, so go ahead and click Start Checking. And then we can see the list of errors that opens up on the left-hand side.
Okay. All right, team, if you'd like to talk about Ally.
I can try. It's
Better than me.
When you launch Blackboard Ally, you can generate a course accessibility report, and then you get a little dial meter. And so I always enjoy this because you get feedback. So if it's green, if you're doing well, and that green meter will even get to like light green for 80% and a real dark green for 100%, and of course orange and red if you're not doing so well. So I think the next slide shows where you access it. So you go up to that little plus sign over on the left-hand tab of Blackboard, and you scroll down to Tool Link. And then you can add the course accessibility report into your Blackboard course. And then after that, all you have to do is click on the tool. It comes up in your left tab of Blackboard. It gives you a snapshot of the overall accessibility of your course. You can check and fix content created in Blackboard. A little screen opens up and it tells you the file, and you can, of course, you have to leave that screen, fix the file, but then you can upload the file again. It helps you prioritize content and issues to fix, including fixing issues it'll tell you in the original software. And I found this was really helpful because if you're trying to work on accessibility of your course and you don't have a lot of time, you can do the little things, and then the things that were in the red meter are going to take longer, and you can plan your approach appropriately. Again, if you're working, you have to export more accessible files to PDF, and there is a difference between saving as and exporting to, and it allows you to download alternative file types. This is what the report looks like. So this particular one, it was a freshman colloquium, and so it was 19% accessible. And it tells you how many PDF and how many Word documents. And it told us that there were 8 low scoring content, and then there were 9 major issues. So it does help you prioritize your approach to the task. Then it gives you a list of the documents and the score. So again, when you first see it, you can decide what your approach to task will be. Will you fix your easier documents first? Or sometimes you might look through this list of documents and they all have a common attribute. For example, this particular list, they're all issues with PDF files. So then you have to say to yourself, I'm going to figure out how to get PDF files accessible. Blackboard is telling me that's the most important thing. You'll also get a view of an individual item, a score. So again, this particular slide says 5%, but after you can work on a document, re-upload it, run the accessibility checker on Blackboard again, and it will show you your progress. And it does not update you automatically the way Microsoft Word will. If you want to, if you've done work on the course, so you've uploaded some files and you want to see your new meter, you have to run the accessibility tool again from the beginning. And then it gives you the list of, can you go back just 1 second?
Hang on.
That was a little piece of information there in the, way over on the right.
Here. Okay. Sorry.
Over on the right, it will tell you things like the PDF is untagged. It doesn't have can't see the word because my smiling face is in the way. I have a language set. It doesn't have a title. It contains text with insufficient contrast. So some of the earlier in the presentation, it said that these checkers don't tell you about contrast, but Blackboard will give you some information about contrast. Might not pick up everything, but it will tell you that list of things. And so as an accessibility fellow, I started to run the accessibility checkers and I looked for common themes, and you're going to find that contrast is a common theme. So I would say I'm going to wrap my head in contrast for a week or so, figure out how to do it, go through my documents. And I chose to do repetitive tasks like that because I found it more efficient. Whereas other people might decide to work on each item in the list and learn how to do a variety of things. But in the beginning, I just chose to learn how to do one thing, learn how to do it well, and then build from there. And pretty soon I knew it.
All right, so that goes over all the accessibility checkers.